Hey, what's up, guys? And yes, you saw that right. The final episode. It's been a long time coming, guys. The final episode of What If Naruto was a elite Blue Eye Uchiha. I just want to thank you all for following me on this journey. Thank you all for sticking along with this series, clicking that like button, commenting down below. I just want to thank you all. It was amazing for all the supports and everything, guys. You all were amazing. I just want to say that to you all. But you already know, don't be sad because new what ifs are coming very soon for you guys to enjoy. But this is the final episode of What If Naruto's Elite Blue Eye Uchiha, which I hope that you will enjoy. So stay in tune, relax, sit back, yeah. And also go ahead and check out the brand new episode over on the making too of What If Naruto's Put Through Hell. And enjoy that, guys. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this final episode? Start the intro. So the last part we left off as Minato was facing off against Naruto as he threw everything. Minato was throwing everything he had at Naruto, trying to bring him down. But the blonde was just using his normal Sharingan. He was even using the Mangekyo. He was holding back tremendously so. As Naruto put into focus and started beat the living crap out of Minato. Minato got exhausted after using Naruto Half Soul. It was literally burning out his body. As he dropped, he pleaded, he begged with Naruto, saying that Kushina loved him and if she find out that he killed him, she would be angry, and she would never forgive him for that. As Naruto was rather amused, the Kushina that divorced him and hate him right now loved him. As Minato told him yes, that she was just going through a phase. As Naruto simply laughed at that, he then sliced Minato's head clean off. After sucking out his half soul out of Minato, as Naruto summoned the Shinigami. The Shinigami that he demoted, as despite not being relatively involved, Naruto still decided to punch the Shinigami, as he would make him return after 100 years or so. As Minato's head was set on flames, the man couldn't die as he just suffered while his head burned at excruciating pain that he could never extinguish. As the Shinigami brought it out to the universe, wandering with it until millennia before he came back. With that, Naruto started to see things that he never saw before. With his no half-soul return, he became omnipotent, as he started to see everything and everywhere at once. As Kaguya, back at the Elemental Nation, Naruto made his way back. Zetsu used one of the clones of Minato to break it, using the false husk of the tree. As the woman emerged, she looked down towards Blue with a smile on her face, as Naruto's eyes shifted one of them, as it turned into the Renin Sharingan, different, black and blue. The woman created a ball of literal death to plunder the elemental nations, as Naruto quickly had to stop it. As he created Susanoo and forced it back, he pushed her into a different dimension, as she was rather crazy. She said that the both of them belonged together. Yes, they were destined to be together. She will sever his connection to the earthly tides by destroying everyone here. As Naruto knew that she was crazy, beyond crazy, he had to stop her as the both of them started to fight. Kaguya soon came to realize that when it comes to close-hand combat, she was no match for Naruto. So just like how Naruto could pull the souls from the depths of hell, she could pull them from the purity world, as she pulled the souls of many great warriors including Ishiki and Hoshirama as she took their fighting style. There she was able to combat with Naruto as the both of them clashed. They broke through reality as they entered a dragon realm, where they had to break back through. They even entered the Avengers, as Thanos tried to control Naruto the Mind Stone and he saw Naruto ravaging the place, as Naruto squashed him as he had transformed into a massive behemoth, as Kaguya transformed as well. The both of them kept on breaking through dimensions after dimensions, breaking through buildings, houses, cities. Their fight was tremendous, going all over the universe, breaking through the laws of physics, doing all sorts of things. Back at the elemental nations, Kaguya told the others to make sure that Earth was ready when she arrived, as the Otsutsuki started raining down hell on everywhere. As Sasuke pleaded with Orochimaru to help Izumi, as she was being attacked by one of the Otsutsukis, Orochimaru sighed as she made her way off, as she quickly started to gather natural energy. So yeah guys, so basically that's what left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So this will begin this new episode. Kaguya crash landed into another dimension as she slammed down on a moving car, destroying the roof. She rolled off. The family of four inside was injured because of her crash landing on the car. Kaguya winks as she had a nasty bruise on her gut, injuries all over her, not yet breaking the skin or pulling blood, but nonetheless it was starting to be annoying and stinging. In an instant she healed the wound and materialized bandage covered the bruises, as it was just now a dull throb. As Kaguya got to her feet, someone flew from the sky, but it was not Naruto. As they had entered a new dimension, Omni-Man flew down. As he looked towards Kaguya, concerned. As he hovered in the air, "Miss, are you okay?" he asked. She completely ignored Omni-Man as she looked around, searching for the love of her life. As a smile came on her face when she sensed him, people started to get rather impatient as they want Omni-Man to pick her and the red car and get out of there so that the traffic could move again. Her Byakugan gun flicked left and right as she swept all three of her eyes around the cosmos, looking for him. The both of them had lost control when they entered their form. They had to push their mind at the back of the far reaches of their form so that they still have a stable connection. The both of them had went crazy, fighting each other. It just showed how Naruto wanted her gone, but to her, she felt delighted that he would go that far. As Thanos had tried to control Naruto's mind while he was in that state, well, the Mad Titan did not know, and he ended up getting destroyed for it. As Kaguya looked around, "Blue," she said, called out his name. Omni-Man flew around her. As he looked towards her, as he noticed an eye on her temple, "Miss, who are you? Are you in any kind of trouble?" he asked, as he touched her. As her Renny Sharingan pulsed, Omni-Man woke up on Mars. As the force of our almighty push knocked the entire planet off orbit. Thousands, if millions, were not killed. Meanwhile, at the Valley of the End, "You're really pissing me off, stranger," said Kushina as she flipped and landed. Multi-shot clone jutsu as she created hundreds of clones that dropped down on the Otsutsuki. She had to bite down hard on a chakra pill she never had used on before, giving her a large quantity of chakra, but she was diving deep into her reserves as she hardened her resolve and dashed towards her opponent, trusting her comrades to fight off the onslaught of Otsutsukis that came down on them. Meanwhile, his head pounded, his vision was blurry, his hands were shaky. Tremors rocked his spirit from inside out. Thundering clouds surrounded his brain. Vomit rose up from his stomach as he tried to force it down, but he had to as he puked in the alleyway. He was having a horrible migraine, a fatal concussion. It was like combining the both of them together. That is how bad the pain was. His body was overheating. He blinked off his Sharingan, realized it was making his balance worse, as he started to puke even more. As he slowly got up to his feet, his entire being was on fire. As he made his way, his eyes were bloodshot. As he walked out in the street, a beat could be heard from a car, but as it slammed into him, it melted. He was hot. He was so hot that the close proximity was melting the ground and everything around him, as the car just melted away, the people inside burning up in flames. As Naruto stepped into a butcher's shop, as he felt the coldness, the butchers grabbed their knife. As he walked past them, screams could be heard as they were incinerated. He stepped inside of the cooling refrigerator as he slammed the door shut. Silence. There was no longer the screams or the butcher. Nothing. He went through hand sign, water, wind release, combination jutsu, corrupting freezing wasteland, as the entire place, not just the freezer, everything got frozen. The temperature dropped immensely. The police arrived a few moments later. "I got this, guys," Invincible said as he came down from the sky. Omni-Man, his father had trusted him to handle this, while he went off to investigate that lady that crashed from the sky and hit on that car. As everyone wondered who was this guy that marched into the butcher shop, probably some misguided hero or a new villain. As he went and removed the door, he saw Naruto inside strapping on his kunai and shuriken holster as he was wearing a fresh set of clothing. Same clothing but a fresh set that wasn't torn up. The headache was still there, in the back of his head, but all he had to do was avoid using strenuous techniques. He snorted at his self-diagnosis. The most he could do right now is keep his Rin Sharingan eye close, and not evolve his Sharingan past the 3-Tomo state. Kaguya wouldn't be worse off than him, but she wouldn't be better. She would be winded and more susceptible to physical injuries, especially the eternal kinds. That was the stage of the fight that they were in. As Invincible saw Naruto attach the weapon pouches, he thought that Naruto was about to draw them. "That's not gonna work on me," he said. As Naruto raised the eyebrow, "I don't think we met. I'm Invincible." Naruto was delayed at this boy's words. He did not understand what he was saying. Not one thing. As he finished checking his launchers as he moved towards the door, but the boy did not move. "Excuse me," said Naruto. As Invincible shook his head, he didn't know what language that was. "I'm sorry. I can't let you go," he said. "You've caused too much trouble, and I got to take you in." On another day, Naruto would have been happy to speak to other life forms with different language. It was rather enjoyable for him to travel the continent after all. But at this moment, the woman that he was fighting would not teleport herself back towards his home dimension. She would rather subdue everything and make him watch as she burned it all down to the ground. Back home, Orochimaru and the others were putting up a hell of a fight against the goddess clan mates. With a bit more time, they will prevail, given the semi-immortality that he briefly granted the fighters of the planet, and the fact that he reused the bodies of the Otsutskis that had already fallen as he put souls in them to fight for his behalf, to face off against the other Otsutskis, and his job was to handle Kaguya. This child that was spatting confusing words from his mouth was in his way at the moment. "I'm gonna put you to sleep," said Naruto. "If you will just move quickly," as he tapped the boy's forehead, as his eyes rolled up in the back of his head as he collapsed, unconscious. As Naruto walked up the boy, the costume is a bit hard to look at, but different world, different style, I guess, as he knew there was some alternate version of him out there that loved eating ramen and were bright orange. So who could he judge? As he summoned crystalline, as he checked the cartridge, he slapped it back inside with a smile. As he emerged from the door, the police officer started to yell as they saw him. "He's got a gun! He's got a gun!" As Naruto looked towards him as they pointed their pistol towards him. "Whoa, whoa," said Naruto. "Don't do that." As he was trying to calm them down, one of the other officers turned on a megaphone, and more of that odd language he could hear came to his ear. As Naruto's headache started to pound, "Drop your gun and get down on your knees. Hands behind your head. Do it now." "Shh. Just shut up for a second," said Naruto. As Kaguya was jogging towards him as she was waving and calling his name. "Blue," she said, as he aimed towards her. But his line of sight was towards the police officer, so they thought he was aiming at them, as they all opened fire, as Blue fired as well. While their bullets did not reach him because of the cloak of chocolate surrounding him, he fired 6 shots right towards Kaguya, 5 of them slamming right into her chest. She coughed up blood as she grinned as she pulled out each of the needles out, showing her grinning bloody teeth. As Naruto fired another one and stabbed right into the eye on her temple. When she reached up towards it, it vanished, like it was just a mirage. "Ouch," she laughed. Despite the large amount of blood she was losing from the wounds, that actually hurt, you know? "It hurt even worse when I laughed," she said. "Not enough to kill me though, because I'm immortal or whatever." She healed herself with that heavenly chakra, but she still wheezed. "You know, a hug and a kiss would make all this pain go away," she said. It was a really deadly poison to stop her blood and break down her chakra, coming directly from Orochimaru, House of Horrors. But it wasn't enough to stop her, but the agony that she was in. Yes, it was bad. The police stopped shooting as they looked towards the crazy woman. "We can still get this whole fiasco behind us, Blue. You and me," she said, "we're meant to be together. We are made for—" She stopped as she coughed up blood as she looked towards her hand. She wiped her hand to her hips. "I still love you," she said, as she started to walk slowly. She blinked. "Honey, you're bleeding," she said, as blood was coming from his nose. "Let me help you." "Stop," said Naruto. "Call off your people," he says, he reloaded crystalline. "This doesn't have to end like this." He almost sounded pleading. "We can be friends." "No," she said as blood leaked down her lips. "I don't like sharing, remember?" As he fired, she slapped away the poison needles, telling him that she could have easily dodged the other ones. She just let them meet their mark for his sake. "Honey, connections like those, bang, bang," he fired once again. "They're bad for you," she said, as she tilted her head left and right, making needles pass her. "Trust me, Naruto. This was the first time she used his name since they met." She was serious. Blue sealed away his weapon as he blurred away. He appeared in front of her. He opened his godly eye as it bled with the magnitude of the technique that he was about to use. His left hand reached her mouth, and his other covered the eye on her temple, but her jutsu was already inactive, as both of them spoke as one doing the same technique. Outer path of the godly one. Dimension collide and merge. One was to obliterate the realities, and Naruto was able to counter-react her technique though, and shift them back towards the Valley of the End, instead of being downtown in Shikaku, where Invincible and Omni-Man were. Only those that were there at the Valley of the End were startled at their sudden appearance. Kushina spit out a tooth and cleaned her katana after discarding, and Otsutsuki tag team was surprised. Her purple eyes bugged out. Naruto! The man grunted as Kaguya was holding on to him tight, as bones came from her palms and stabbed him. As bones came from her stomach and stabbed him right through the ribs. His body started to turn a bit flaky. You're not gonna die, she said. You can't die. Their chakra started to become undone, as storms, violent hurricanes start to form. You will just be tired for a long while, scattered across your dimension. But don't worry, I will gather all your essence until you wake up, she said. Dying for them meant that their presence would be scattered, their consciousness scattered a far and wide realm, where they wouldn't know who or what they were. As years went by, piece and piece of himself would come back together. It was just like how a tail beast would form, like how the Kyuubi would resemble after 9 years, and how the Nibi would resemble after 2. But the number of years for him to come back was unknown. Kaguya Byakugan deactivated, but the eye on her head did not close. Kushina tried to power through the blizzard of raw, toxic chakra that was being blazed around. They couldn't hear her as she screamed as a hurricane was loud. His body started to lose its color. I can wait, she whispered. I've waited before and I'll keep waiting, she said as she nuzzled her nose into his neck. By the time you wake up, I'll have breakfast ready. Thank you. She blinked, almost startled. What did you say? She asked. For that breakfast and I wake up. Thanks, he said. Smile bloomed on her face, lightened up the heavens, and intensified their chaotic chakra. But the both of them are losing control of their chakra right now. Can I get that kiss now? She said. He laughed, a bit winded. If you don't mind. I'm a bit rusty, she said. As Naruto laughed, she blushed at the laughter. Don't laugh, she said. He hummed with a smile, judging that she hadn't gotten any actions for thousands of millions of years now. As the corner of his lips went up into a smile. Me too, he said. You liar, she said. I'm serious, he said. Yeah, sure, she said. So, let's do this, as her blush increased. The hand goes in the back of her neck, placed on her cheek. As their lips touch, she sighed and closed her eyes as she melted into the touching, loving embrace. As she lowered all her defenses, as Naruto ran Sharingan pulse, Kaguya felt it, as it was too late, as he started to absorb her right into his eye. She pulled back, as her body was being distorted. Naruto. One last time, she thought, as she leaned in and tried to kiss him, but she was already gone, sucked into his eye, absorbed into his system. Her consciousness was brought to a small corner of his mind, where the shadowy face of those that he killed during his duties were. As Naruto stood there, alone, impaled by her bones, as he felt the hellish chakra around him, he tried to pull it back in, as he separated holy chakra from hellish chakra, pouring one into the summoning fish realm, and pouring one into the abyss. By the time he was done, he was still fading, but everyone was gone. Everyone was dead. The tempest did not only cover the Valley of the End or the Fire Nation, it engulfed the entire world, seeping into the core. Gas masks and protective suits did nothing, it saved no one. Human corpses withered down to the bone, their skin, their eyes dried, their skin deflated. This wasn't a merciful death, and not painless. Kushina corpse at his feet, her red hair by dirt and grass covering over it. Despite everything, she managed to get so close to him. The toxic air that came from them turned the foliage into ash. It turned the desert into nothing but glass. It turned the water, the ponds, everything into nothingness as it evaporated. Mountains collapsed. Underground bunkers collapsed on itself. Green changed to grey and blue turned to black. The planet could no longer sustain life anymore. The statue of Fushirama had withered into dust as Naruto sat down. As he just sat down, too weak to stand. Still, his blue eye shifted and turned into Kaguya, running Sharingan, adding more power into his being. He was now one, he was both. The koi fish and the crow contract. It was Nagato's prophecy. Yes. Darkness and light. He remembered Nagato's words. I saw darkness, a sunless, moonless world with hellish fire, A fire-breathing monster with a blue Sharingan looming over the earth. Shadowy bird sat on his left shoulder, and a magnificent fish swam in a pool in his other eye. The end of reality. The man was right. But Naruto could change that. He wouldn't allow it to happen. He wouldn't allow it to end this way. He slammed his hands together. Rebirth of the god tree. Naruto's skin hardened as a tree grew around him. The branches and leaves scraped the outer edges of space as Naruto sat right in the center of the tree as he had his hands on the tree that spread through the multiverse. Negativity of the god tree, he said. The roots of the god tree dig deep into the earth. Others went out and wrapped around every single corpses, all of them around. The dead bodies of Jinchuriki, the desert people, the Yakuza of Zeki, the people of the Hidden Rain, his contacts, his connections, Orochimaru who died holding on to Sasuke, Shisui, Itachi and Izumi in her lab, trying to get away from the fog that seemed to just appear out of nowhere. But it even went in there. Kushina, wherever they were hiding, the god roots reached out and find them as it brought them into a wooden cocoon that held them up off the ground. Chakra flew into them, restoring their body, their minds and their forms. The exact how they were before the Osusuke invasion, he gave them back that exact vitality as he healed their bodies, not yet returning life to their lungs, as he held the world together from breaking apart with the god tree and his control over gravity. He then trapped the planet in a massive spear before he took in a deep breath as he sucked all the green depth that spread out from their collision, him and Kaguya, into the tree as he cycled that around and released fresh, omnipotent, white clean air. Color came back to the wasteland. Trees, roots grew, ocean, everything started to bloom once again. The sun rays broke through the clouds and shined down on the earth. Animals that died because of him and Kaguya came back to life. Shibuku no Tensei, he said, as an island far away over to the course rose up in the sky and stuck at earth atmosphere going up. Blue released a sigh as some of the trees of the god tree fall, showing his exhaustion. Also, his body was still decaying, the bones inside of him from when Kaguya shot him. It was like parts of his body was falling asleep and he could not wake them up. His lower torso was gone, his shoulders were losing feeling as he placed his hand in front of him. Pure world resurrection, he said. Everything froze, nothing moved. Not even the air, not even the animals. Then everyone gasped as life rushed into them, to lower the tree roots that they were in and weaken them. So a single push and they could be free. The people didn't quarrel as they helped each other out, pulling each other out as they wonder how and why they were alive. In the case of Jinchuriki, they came back without their tail beasts. All 9 beasts were absorbed into the god tree, thus into blue. Buildings across the continent were some things that he couldn't restore, but the people weren't focusing on that. Their demise were wiped from their minds. The minutes of them going to heaven or hell was clear from their thoughts. They did not remember any of that. The only thing they remember is that they were attacked. Some tree roots did not weaken, instead they hardened into titanium, steel. Those inside did not wake up. They were the Osusuke corpse. Those bodies were left behind while the majority of the forces fled back home. The Osusukes will not be brought back, but they will turn into loyal beings that belong to Naruto, that will be called the White Zetsus. His White Zetsus will wake up long before their master though. As everyone looked towards the pods that were there, they decided not to break them open. Whatever happened, these tree roots, they saved them somehow. Years later, buildings rise up around the root pods. Kumo, the Iron, Konoha, the Hidden Star. They saw it as a tourist attraction, as people were all curious about the events that unfold there. By the time ninjas were sent out to investigate by their countries, the place had already been warded off. This time, Blue told his friends and family where he was, using a crow to direct them towards the Valley of the End. Next came what called the migration. The Uchiha clan relocated from Konoha in all their entirety and made their home around the god tree. They carved a small area of fire country for themselves. They raised mighty fences and giant gates to keep their privacy, doing so with the help of those close to the Blue Eye Uchiha. The infamy of the snake sage Orochimaru kept anyone from prodding at their walls. A flourishing civilization grew from that quaint settlement as it spread several miles. As it developed, the growth, they dared the fire country or Konoha to say otherwise, as it had spread over as well, seeing that many more people were allowed to live there, while only a few special cases were allowed to live. Around the Sharingan, most powerful person, a temple of marble and metal was constructed. Offerings and prayers were left at the foot of the god tree, sending their love to the man that embodied all of their existence. But long before that happened, as we return back to the normal time, Naruto sat there. "Prophecy my ass," he said. "Kaguya, I know you're listening." As he folded his legs and crossed his arms. "Even if it take all of time, I won't let you escape." As he started to turn into stone completely. Lingering in the back of his mind, trapped in limbo, Kaguya smiled as Naruto was petrified in stone right there and then. Time skip. 18 years later, a beeping could be heard as it was currently 5:45 a.m. in the morning. A hand sneaked off in the bed sheet and slapped the alarm. But it kept on beeping as the person slapped it again. It kept on beating as the person slapped it harder this time. As it went quiet, Orochimaru blinked as she slowly opened her eyes, looking at her home that had been for the past 18 years. Having a good night rest was good every now and then, even though this body of hers was not going to expire for at least 200 years. Despite her wealth and everything, her name, her room was rather plain. She had 2 wardrobes in there, a drawer made out of a special wood, cool air condition went in there, seeping around her room. Her bed could hold at least 3 people. Most of her furniture was from hidden shelves, where her operations were. Well, that was until she packed everything and relocated here. Everyone from that village, all the stone orphans that her son had rescued, the refugees, came with her and made their homes around the god tree. As they expand the hidden village, the development was surprising and large. As she wiggled her toes before placing them on the ground, as she made her way towards the bathroom. Some minutes later, she came back out to get changed. She switched the radio on. "Good morning, Blue Tree." Orochimaru grunted at the person on the radio. "It's another wonderful day in our wonderful home. And what a better way to start our day than with ostrich." As random bird sounds, chicken and ducks could be heard, followed by a party horn. Orochimaru shook her head as she picked up a lab coat, making her way down the stairs as she was dressed. The speakers in the living room hum as they connect to the radio channel and they play. We are nearing the end of summer break, so it's getting cooler and the winds are blowing harder. Don't forget to put on some warm clothes and carry an umbrella with you, because we're expecting some light shower around midday. Before I warm your house with music, I got the most adorable request from the most adorable kids here. As he pressed the button, the voicemail from yesterday went off. The kids were probably 5 or 4 years old. Orochimaru paused as she recognized the first kid speaking loudly. He was probably holding the phone too close to his mouth. "Hello. Good evening, Ostrich. My name is Ichimaru." His siblings and cousin introduced himself as well. "My name is Constantine. My name is Hebai Sora Jr. I am Mimiko. I am Irashi. And I'm Kira. I'm Gun. I'm Crow. And I'm Kaguya. We want to wish our grandma a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Granny Orkai." As Orochimaru smiled, chuckling fondly at their voice. She heard the peep in the background and she could pick out each and every one of their voice. "We love you, Grandma." "I love you too, baby," she said, despite no one hearing her. The kids were sweet, as Grandma and Grandpa was what the children call the parents of the family, meaning Yujeu, Blue, and Kushna. But Orochimaru made a point to stand out. Like she always wanted the Blue Dwarfs to have kids. She spoiled them, yes. Heaven only know why they weren't rotten. "Well, isn't that the most cutest thing you ever heard before?" said Ostrich. "Anyway, I want to add my voice and wish Lady Orochimaru the most happiest, brightest, most amazing birthday. And also each birthday be better than the last. Happy birthday, ma'am." As Orochimaru nodded at that, as Ostrich continued. "Fun fact about Lady Orochimaru, she is still single, and I personally think that she's a catch." Orochimaru rolled her eyes. "My advice though, unless you're a double S rank with a death wish, don't come at her for a relationship." As a smirk came on Orochimaru's lips. "I'll try and invite her to the studio so you guys can hear her personally. I heard she's a fan. Fingers crossed." As Ostrich started to make songs, she left the house. Then she thought of her grandchildren and their army of children. Ichimaru, Constantine, and Hebai Saru. They were Itachi's. He had them with Aizurabi, except Hebai Saru, which they adopted from a remote village in Water Country. Constantine and Hebai Saru were 4, and Ichimaru was 6, the oldest of their ragtag group of children. Aizurabi showered them with so much love and affection. Itachi had to work double time to get them looking towards the direction, but he loved them. Junior and Tiger were Aizumi's, naming her first daughter after herself. Yes, because she had the brazen audacity to look more like her mother instead of her father. so she named the first after herself, while the second was named after a popular cartoon character her husband loved as a child. The man unfortunate enough to fall in love with her was a puppet master from the sun. The fifth Kazekage older brother to be exact, as Kankuro and Izumi enjoyed their little bickering. Shisui adopted Miko from the sun and later on Arashi from Wave Country. It was the advice from his best friends. So for him to stop jumping from boyfriend to boyfriend, it seems like Izumi was right all the way back then. About Shisui, well, it's not like anyone to judge him for anything. But the speedster always skipped to a different relationship. He was never with someone for really long. But having these two kids that he adopted, they made him grow up. It worked out excellently. He was an amazing father, but he did not stop going on dates. Well, at least he didn't end up half naked, drunk, in a random apartment. Orochimaru waved to her neighbors as they waved back at her, as they were wishing her a happy birthday. As she thought about Sasuke, it was a bit funny when you think about it. He had a one fling with that Haruna girl 5 years back at a party at Zieki, as both of them had missions from their respective villages. And 1 month later she came, despite the contraceptive seal and a reliable morning after jutsu. Things, well, happen. You could never know, sometimes unexpected just happened. It seemed like Sasuke's swimmers were powerful though, as they bypassed everything. Thus the quadruplets. As she giggled to herself, she leaped towards the buildings, jumping from building top to building top. The big family never let the tired father any moment to rest. As a medic and a mother, Orochimaru respected Sakura Haruno, but as a person, she detested the pink head with every fiber of her being, even though Sasuke had smoothed everything over with the clan council. Being the Uchiha clan head and leader of the Blue Tree, Sakura Haruno still refused to step foot inside the village. And the reason why, because Orochimaru, the most wanted ninja and the mother of the Blue Uchiha that betrayed the village and killed their beloved fourth Hokage in cold blood, was living in the village. Sakura could believe whatever she wanted, and at the same time, Sasuke was at liberty to run his village how he saw fit. Blue Tree and Konoha was always butting heads on different issues. The biggest one was Orochimaru should be judged for her crimes in Konoha, but that wasn't going to happen. She even made her way alone around Blue Tree outside. No one would dare touch her because they didn't want the might of the Blue Tree to fall on them. She wouldn't even have to lift a finger. After some talk between Itachi and Asuma Sarutobi, who's the fifth Hokage if they didn't leave, both parties agreed that 6 months would be good. Split between Sasuke and Sakura the children. For the children's birthday, they will go to any neutral place and they can celebrate. Their father even went to go and see their children. Every now and then, he stayed on Sakura's couch. It was a pain that she just couldn't come to Blue Tree and saw her children as well. As Orochimaru arrived to one store building, as it read, Crystalline Pharmacy and Laboratory. Orochimaru had gone legit, if not for her, for the sake of her extended family. A lot had happened since 18 years ago. Since Blue God Tree grew out from what used to be the Valley of the End, the village hidden under the Blue Tree was spread as large as Konoha. The daimyo didn't have any problem with that, seeing that they were going to stay in the Land of Fire. So he had Konoha there, and the Blue Tree there as well. At least they weren't going to go off to any different nations like the Rock or anything else. As Orochimaru entered, as she saw Kabuto, as Kabuto was reading a clipboard, making sure everything was in place where it was supposed to be, she looked up as she saw her master. Lady Orochimaru, she said. Happy birthday. Thank you, Kabuto. How was your night? Did you sleep okay? I slept well. The screws in my back are gone now, so I don't need those meds anymore. As Orochimaru nodded, Kinshiki had snapped Kabuto's spine before she arrived. Her healing was able to fix it up, but it took a long, painful journey of rehabilitation and spinal surgery to set the spine back right. As Kabuto had went into a depression phase, knowing that the love of her life had turned into a tree. As Orochimaru made sure the family had welcomed her quite well, so that she wouldn't stay in that state anymore, and also making her the assistant manager of Crystalline helped as well. Kabuto has grown, she had matured over the last couple of years, as she was wearing proper clothing, no longer that black bodysuit anymore. Though her love for the Blue Uchiha never faded, she was a stellar medic and a determined kunoichi. Finish up and let's have breakfast. What would you like? Maybe some waffles, eggs sunny side up, lemon tea with a spoon of honey. Orochimaru nodded as she made the order on the landline before putting hers in. She had a lot to do today, despite it was her birthday. Much really didn't change. She still had a lot to do, as she had to deliver some things towards the hospital. She had to go by and pick up the kids with Itachi and Kankuro, as she had made sure to do this twice a week to just see the kids run out of school. She had lunch with Kushina and Yujiro, and she also had a phone call to make towards Yujito at Kumo. She was gonna have a dinner party later on to celebrate her birthday, and then come back to the shrine to speak to her son, telling him how her family was faring and that she missed them dearly. She wanted to make Blue know that they were happy and that she loved him, always. Time skip sometime later, at the center of the hidden blue tree, as Itachi entered the marble carved out path. This is where the crow that led them swipe a claw, so all of them saw it as special. There was also memorial stones for late Uchihas, fixed around the giant shrine made for Naruto. The graveyard was over towards the side out of the line area, treated with care, with the tombstones and everything prepared. Non-Uchihas could be buried there as well. Itachi wanted to beat the line, so he arrived early to offer his greeting to his uncle. He had the hunter mask clap onto the side of his face, a dark sleeve shirt with a mesh armor underneath, and dark shinobi pants. He had a red and black vest with the Uchiha fan on the back. In his hand there was a headband with the Uchiha fan on the metal plate, as he had a smile on his face. 3 small bodies slammed into his legs. He didn't make them come with him on his morning routine. They woke up early though, and they got their bath, and they scampered off with him. Before preschool, their bedtime was at 8. It still surprised Itachi how they could wake up and get ready. For the day at 6, they had so much energy, while their parents were struggling to keep their eyes open. They really had too much energy for kids their age. A real debate at Itachi's home was cancelling sugar and switching over to honey. Yes, him and Ice Ribe was thinking about a lot, as their mother was coming behind them. She had a basket. There was some flowers, some incense inside, and some snacks. The oldest, Ishimaru and Confronting, were identical to their father, except for the lines under his eyes, as they hugged their little backpack in their hands. Hibai saw her. Strangely enough, he looked like his mother, despite being adopted. Well, he took after her due to their backgrounds, as he had green, reddish scales over his body, not unlike a snake, covering his arms up to his shoulders. They had to regularly file down his nails to prevent injuries. His snake-like eyes were gleaming copper yellow. His hair was soft brown going down to his neck. Ice Tribe was on a personal trip in Water Country, taking time out for her family, when she came upon an isolated village in the coastal area. In that camp, in a tent, was a recently deceased body of a woman that had the lower torso of a snake, dearly hugging onto a 1-year-old crying baby. There was some words written there. Hebai Sara, the name of a child, and another underneath that, love for her child. She had buried the woman and took the baby. She found out that people of that village thought that the woman was a bad omen. It was exactly how the people of the Land of Sea saw her. She had stayed at the camp because Azrab did not know. She had waited for this Hebai Sara to come, but no one did. But no one came. Itachi was all for it for raising a child, a part of his family. Orochimaru swore that she had no hand in that, as Hebai leaped up towards his father's neck and sit down on his shoulder, as the other two wrapped around his legs. Their laughter brought a warm smile to Azrab's face. The couple had met on a blind date. Chisui's then boyfriend had a friend of a friend that knew a single lady that moved to the capital, and the date was set up. Itachi was cool as ever, but Azrabe saw it. She saw the fumbling, the sweat, and the bit of nervousness, not knowing if he should pay for the entire thing, and she found it rather funny. The two of them weren't exactly skilled when it came to dating, but it was funny watching them stumble through the conversation. A handful of months later into the relationship, they found out how they were connected together through the Blue Uchiha. As he managed to pick his 3 children up in his arm as he turned, she wiggled her eyebrow at him. Itachi laughed. Making a home with her was the best idea ever. She didn't have a problem with his facial expressions, and he tolerated her terrible jokes. As she placed on the offerings towards the Blue Uchiha, as she lit the incense, as they bowed their head, the kids saw what their parents were doing. They bowed their head as well. They were all grateful for everything. In the beginning, things were tough. They first had to live in mourning and the defeat of the outside world. They had to protect everything. They had lived in tents, shielding their homes from anyone that might try anything. The arrival of the snake Sanin, and all from Hidden Chill, and not to mention Itachi supporting the clan with his inheritance from his uncle Billions, boosted everything and everyone's morale, moving from tents into wooden houses as concretes were soon applied. Clan leadership and the village leadership was raised, attended by Blue's mother and the 4 Uchiha friends, and Uchiha as well. Kushina politely declined the invitation she didn't want to impose. The clan council came to Itachi take up the role of clan head. This was about the same time they were settling down and raising walls around their new home. Itachi refused, saying that he wasn't, well, interested in being clan head, as he found himself in an advisory role function beside his grandmother, Orochimaru, and his aunt Yujiro. Sasuke was too young back then, so the council ruled the village until Sasuke was old enough. 10 years later, as they found their whole, everything came together. Sasuke became the youngest at 14, the youngest clan head, when he was sure everyone had a roof over their head and dependable supplies of food on each table. The administration building was built. That is where the leader and the council members oversaw the daily life of the people down below. But all of them knew that Naruto was not dead, and they had living proof now because chakra sensors could feel his chakra coursing through the tree. Those that were able to stud the tree found out that the chakra was like a sleeping tail beast, but it wasn't poisoning. It was sleeping, calm. Studies showed that the being inside was dreaming. The specific of the dream was unknown, but they were sure that he wasn't having a nightmare because the chakra was smooth and fluently running. As a phone went off, it was Itachi's. He pulled it out, as it was a message from Sasuke so early in the morning. As it read, "Mom sick." Ice Rabi saw the look on her husband's face. What's wrong? As he showed her the message, as she understood why his mood changed, she shared a look with her husband, who nodded. Come on kids, why don't we visit Yujiro and see if she finally fixed that washing machine? As Yujiro was doing this thing, where she decided to fix things on her own, even when she didn't know one hell about them. She decided to dive in and pull things apart and put them back together. Most of the time it ended well. Most times she had to beg her unhappy roommate Kushina to pitch in for a new machine, as it wasn't time for the kids to go to school yet. Soon they would put on a play, as they would be graduating from that year. And Constantine was going to be a tree in the play. Constantine was really excited about being a tree. It was just funny. As they made their way, Constantine glanced back, wondering where their uncle was dreaming. Time skip. At Sasuke's house, a small 5-year-old girl was sitting on her father's lap. Her 3 siblings were still asleep, scheduled to wake up later to prepare for school. But she was different. She was like Itachi when he was younger. She barely slept most times. As Sasuke finished her pigtail, "There we go," he said. "All done." "Thanks, Dad," she said. He had just finished bathing her and dressing her up. An easy task when it came to Crow, saying that she was the calmer of the 4 kids, as he had wake up even before her, and he did so, fixing up himself, black pants and black shirt. As she leaned up and gave him a kiss on the cheek, that made Sasuke smile as he picked himself up. It was amazing how much he would do to make his children happy. Happier than his parents ever made him happy, as his Uncle Blue ensured he was. Like braiding hair, he learned for Crow and Kaguya, his daughters. They enjoy having their hair braided, and whenever he stayed at Sakura's, they always use their mother makeup to paint him face, to make him look like some unrecognizable clown. But he would go through it all for the love of his children. He nodded his head as Crow asked if she could wake up the others. She got a pinkish tone, with dark hair and dark eyes. Kaguya here was jet black with dark green eyes. Kiri has Sasuke black hair, and his black eyes as well. Kun was his mother's son. He had her pink hair and her green eyes. They were identical in all but behavior. Crow was assertive and took charge. Kiri was stubborn, pushing and shoving if he didn't have his way, and always crying as well. He cried over many things, literally, crying over spilled milk on many occasions. Kun was a shy one, but he had this look in his eyes like a protector over the others. Like the time when Kiri dropped his ice cream as Kun gave him his ice cream so that he wouldn't cry. He reacted even faster before Sakura, and Sasuke even noticed. Kaguya was entitled, and she was also bossy to everyone around her. She spoke like she was some sort of noble. Both parents swore they didn't know where she learned it from. As Sasuke got all of them ready to give them a bath, as Crow barked at Kaguya to stop dancing around so their father can move her clothing. As Sasuke smiling happiness towards Crow, Kaguya pouted as she raised her hands. Sasuke would have scolded her to stay still if he wasn't so tired, on top of not having the physical support of the other parents during the 3 years of raising his kids. His girlfriend of 3 years was having trouble to get an acceptance letter from the Hokage to permanently move to Blue Tree, and it was not Sakura Haruno. Despite having kids with her, Sasuke was not with Sakura. It was Hanabi Hyuga. Most would think that Hanabi was going through a rebellion Prince's face, dating the leader of the village that Konoha hated, and going as far as to meet with Sasuke family, making her intentions for her Uchiha boyfriend clear as day. 3 years later, and the couple was still going strong though. Sasuke was actually planning to propose sometime next week. The problem was her clan and her village was creating roadblocks to stop her move. The Hyuga clan pulled expensive strings, so she couldn't get her own place in Konoha, no matter how much money she was willing to pay, forcing her to live in the clan compound, which would explain why Sasuke ended up sleeping on soccer couch instead at his girlfriend's place. Well, she could take missions away from the country, so there was that. Hinata said nothing and did nothing about that. Asuma flat out declined her resignation, as he realized that Blue Tree would not submit. They would not merge with Konoha, and they were growing more powerful, more developed, more advanced. There, daddy, said Kun, as he patted his father. Sasuke blinked as he didn't even realize that he had been sitting on his bed in silence. It seemed that the Kun was also watching over him as well. That made him smile. Sasuke stick his tongue out at Kun. That made the boy smile, as his phone went off as he pulled it out of his pocket. As Kun looked over his father's shoulders, it was a morning selfie from Hanabi, as she was in her pajamas, as she wrote underneath it, missing you. The dark bags under his eyes clear away. Daddy, said Kun. Answer, he said. I miss you too. Are you free in an hour? As the answer came swiftly. Yeah. What are you planning? It's a surprise. I'll be there later. You know I got these eyes, right? You literally can't hide anything from me. Is that a dare, Miss Hyuga? Her reply was a wink emoji, followed by a emoji sticking out his tongue, and a squirrel doing a funny dance. Sasuke smirked. Challenge accepted. Dad, is that Hanabi? Kaguya asked, tugging on her father's pants leg. Say hi for me. Yeah, okay. The kids say hi, Sasuke wrote. Her answer came. Kiss them for me. Tell them I got them presents. He shrugged as he only relayed half of the message. She want me to kiss you guys. As a grin came on Sasuke's face. Kun was the first one and Sasuke grabbed him and kissed him as the others run in joy. They were going to run late for school and Itachi was probably already on the way, but he loved playing with them as he chased down the others. Catching them downstairs, he heard the bell door ring as they jumped on him as he made his way towards the door. Hey, Sasuke said calmly, despite the children all draped over him. Kushina chuckled as she collected 2 5-years-old from his arm. Morning, she said. She slipped past Sasuke as she held on to Keri and Kaguya. Sorry I'm late, some Jenny needed help finding a lost dog, she said, as Itachi leaned on the door frame as he was there as well. Kushina shivered. I hate dogs, she said. Probably the effects of living with Yujeu, who loved cats. Uzumaki jeans kept owlness away from her face. As you could see, her youthful face was still there, but the bags under her eyes and the tiredness in her eyes show her true age. Sorry for calling you so early in the morning. Don't be. As a teacher, it's my job to get kids to school safely and make sure they get home safely. It went above and beyond for what other teachers did. But for the children of the family, Kushina couldn't help but love them. It's alright, relax, she said. Sasuke released a sigh. They haven't had breakfast yet. Their school bags are packed though. Their homeworks are finished. I really appreciate this, Sensei, he said. I said don't worry about this, Sasuke. I'll fatten them up before we leave the house. Sasuke became a bit nervous. Sensei, I'm joking. She looked around towards Itachi as she rolled her eyes. Now, get going, she said. I'll make sure everything is fine. Sasuke pressed a kiss on top of their heads. I'll see you guys later. But Dad, said Kaguya, I wanted to show you my boyfriend. Itachi choked on ear as Sasuke's eyes widened. Boyfriend? His eyes snapped towards Kushina, who looked rather amused at the situation. What boyfriend? Little girl's answer was a blush and innocent swoop. Sasuke saw red. His eyes turned red as well. You shouldn't worry, said Kushina. It's probably some boy that gave her his lunch box doing lunch breaks or something. Unknown to them, that was exactly down to the finer detail of what happened. As Kun patted his father on his leg, Sasuke looked down toward his son, his Sharingan deactivating. As Kun nodded, he will find out. As Sasuke nodded back, as his son and him had an understanding. Time skip. Mikoto was wearing a white, grayish shump. It civilized, grieving, her paints. As she was sitting on a stump, it covered her head, hiding her grey hair that was once lush and shimmering but now grey. The rest of her body was hidden completely, only her face could be seen, as her eyes were closed. Rabbits were at her feet. She turned. I have tea, she said. I can make tea. We're fine, Sasuke said, as the two men stood there. Sit, please. Itachi remained silent as he fixed the empty gaze on his mother. As Mikoto eased back down the stump, hesitant smiles swept through her face. My boys. Sasuke, what's wrong with you? Said Itachi. Did you eat something bad? I lied, she said, holding back her sobs. I'm sorry I lied. She held out her two hands. I wanted to hear from my two boys again, she said. Typical, said Itachi. Sasuke did not break composure. We're in enough trouble coming here. If the council find out, No. If the village find out that you're not dead. Her hands dropped to her side. He didn't have to say anything else. The Chodian that brought the report worked directly underneath him and was sworn to secrecy. Only those in their family knew. Sasuke's words was supreme in the blue tree. But that didn't lessen the doubt that the people had on Mikoto. Blue disgrace of a sister. They had no hand in her traveling to grass country and staying in the grass empty plains. It was making sure that Konoha didn't find out about her whereabouts and anyone else. That is what they oversaw. But their mother wanted nothing to do with the hidden leaf. Mistaking loyalty to the village instead of her clan brought this punishment down on her. Hatred of her brother was why she was there. Poor, blind, chocolate woman. She taught the both of them to live and love for their clan. Yet, she broke that because of spite. In all the world, she had one brother and she hated him. Not anymore. Blue had gave her a chance as he confided in her and told her about his therapy with Inoichi. He opened his heart to her and yet she stepped on it without any mercy. She made peace that she would never be able to apologize for him. And in all her words, she would never be able to go back to the clan no matter what. The two of them detested her, but they respected her wish to avoid Konoha at all costs. Until her death, she would not speak a word to any person affiliated with Konoha. This, though, was the brother's first time meeting her in years. I'm sorry, Sasuke, Itachi, for breaking up our family, she said. What we had with you and Fukaku wasn't a family. It was broken from the start, Itachi said. I'm sorry, she said. I could have been many things. A wife, a mother, a sister. And yet I failed. Can I be a grandmother? Can I please meet my grandkids? The both of them exchanged a look as they spoke as one. No. That's not gonna happen unless the kids sought her out themselves. They wouldn't hide her from their kids. If they wanted to find out about her, it was up to them. She would try and convince them later about the subject. I went to a market yesterday to work for some money. It took some time, but searching, she was able to come upon a market to wash some dishes for her pay. It was 5 kilometers away. Someone came up to me and he said that his name was Zetsu. The peer tense as Orochimaru got some information. Something that was written by Conan and that name was in it. It spoke about this man Zetsu. The Venus flytrap thing had been hiding in the shadow of Madara Uchiha. Conan said that Zetsu did the thinking for Madara. What did he want? Itachi asked. He said that he could give me my sight, restore my legacy and unite me with my family. In exchange for what? Asked Itachi. For signing a summoning contract. Koi fish, I think. As Sasuke faced steel, Zetsu had been accounted for since Kaguya came out of the moon. Some Hyugas said that they had spotted some creature but it went away too fast before they could apprehend it. As Naruto had burned the tree that Zetsu had created with the Amaterasu of Flame, and no one found any remains of Zetsu, not even a human-shaped pile of ashes. Sasuke leaned towards his older brother. What do you think? We can't just brush this off, said Itachi. If this is true, then he probably want mom DNA connection with uncle to somehow manipulate the god tree, Sasuke said. Zetsu probably wanted to try again to free Kaguya. Blue had told Yujiro that Minato had sealed half of his soul into him using the Shinigami, and he had tapped into that connection, that overwhelming amount of chakra, to create the god tree so that he could free Kaguya. I told him no, said Mikoto. I don't want any part of his plans. Good, said Sasuke as he turned towards Itachi. We'll have to keep an eye on her. Come by more often. Maybe. Yeah. I could send down some of my Jonins though. Sworn to secret at the cost of painful death, of course. Itachi turned. If you're lying, as he looked towards Mikoto. Then strike me down, she said. Send someone to kill me or give me a kunai so I can do it myself. She bowed her head. I swear, I'm not lying. Meanwhile, Blue tapped his chin as he was currently sitting down and playing chess with Kaguya. It was strange. She was a Sasuke princess, trained in war strategy, and yet all this time she has never beaten him once before. Or was she letting him win? I thought you were training war strategy as a kid, he said. Hello, Naruto. I'm Rusty. Nice to meet you, she said, sarcasm dripping off her tone. It's been 18 years already. Yeah, what's your point? You haven't beaten me once, said Naruto. And she simply smirked at that. Oh really now, she said. Why don't we take a break? I'll break you, she said. As Naruto blinked at that, at her outburst. I got you right where I want you, she said. As she lowered her head, as she released a wave of chakra, changing the dreamscape that they were in, to the Valley of the End where the god tree was. Black Zetsu, said Naruto. As you seem to forget, Kaguya, that I am literally in your head. As he looked towards her, as she couldn't hide anything from him, She was trying lately to obscure her thoughts so he could not see it, but he could still see what she was thinking. Right down to the finer, complex detail. I know everything that you're thinking. I know everything, Kaguya. Oh, do you, honey? As he took one of her knights with a solitary pawn. You, on the other hand, cannot read my thoughts, he said. Enlighten me then on what you're thinking, she said. Your black Zetsu is not the only one awake, said Naruto, as she paused, hesitating for the slightest. As Blue smirked at her hesitation, Black Zetsu had took great injury from falling down that great height when Blue had scorched a tree. It dug itself into the earth to create back a link between itself and White Zetsu. Kaguya dropped her hand and she destroyed the board. So, she said, while I don't have access to your Zetsu thoughts, and I can't read his thoughts, I know exactly what it is gonna do. He snapped his finger and the board returned back to how it was. As he moved his king and took her rook, his first prediction already came through with Zetsu, trying to make his sister to sign the summoning contract of the koi fish. But now that was blocked because her son knew about it. Her sons, Itachi and Sasuke. His next predictions will happen, not at once but over the years. Zetsu would influence governments, manipulate minds, raise an army. This wouldn't be like the Akatsuki or Obito or Inja or Ashura or anything like the world has ever seen before. It would be different. Zetsu will find blue DNA in Hidden World Pool, a dried piece of blood stain lingering chalker somewhere on the island. Yes, you will find that blue DNA. It will create a clone of Naruto from that DNA, and it will imply kick Genkai into that unfortunate clone, little by little, one at a time. Zetsu will give the clone freedom to gain awareness, while still toying with the clone mental state. By that time, Blue Tree will have many allies, and war will come, dragging the world into a fourth Great Shinobi War. The clone was supposed to grab control of the God Tree and remove Kaguya from Blue mental prison. Naruto snapped his finger as the location they were in changed to the graveyard site. The two deities played their game of chess beside a grave as Kaguya did not look at the gravestone. Listen, said Naruto. There was a tree root pod. A pod that was closed, that was inside the graveyard. The pod broke open and something fell out. A white Zetsu, not one of Kaguya's. This one belonged to Naruto. Something then came from the ground. Blue Zetsu. As Kaguya had created Black Zetsu, a will. So when her son had sealed her away, she could come back one day. And Naruto did the same thing before he was taken away. This Blue Zetsu merged the White Zetsu. It will do everything in its power to make sure that Kaguya Zetsu was taken care of, as the battle would be fought in the shadows. So it didn't matter how much she planned or what White Zetsu did. Naruto always created a countermeasure to make sure that all of his people, everyone he loved, got to live a chance in peace and happiness. And yeah, guys, this is where this comes to an end. I really hope that you guys enjoy. I just want to say thank you all again for sticking along with this story for so long. But yeah, this is where this comes to an end. And as usual, don't be sad because new what are coming up soon for you guys to enjoy. But I'm out for now. See you guys soon. Peace.